And we're live. Welcome, everybody, here to the Lakers Lounge podcast. I'm Anthony Irwin, Lakers insider for Lakers Daily. Joined today by, you know what? There is literally, Harrison, I think I can say this honestly, literally nobody I would rather have to do the show with than you right now.
Well, is that just because
Legitimate.
I was the only person that volunteered to do it? Or is that
As always.
yeah, exactly. Like, is this a situation where it's like LeBron and JJ, where if JJ leaves the pod, LeBron's not going to replace him? Like, there's not going to be like a continuation of the Mind the Game pod with a new co-host, where like this pod, I think you probably would have done it if I hadn't showed up, you know?
No, I was getting ready to do a solo show, but
Yeah.
no, like I actually,
I want the LeBron the Mind the Game pod solo show.
The solo Bron show?
He's filibustering for, you know.
Yeah, I mean that's essentially like the late game Lakers offense, but like we were no, like I am being somewhat sentimental here, because if I would have told you however many years ago when we accidentally went live on the first episode of the Team Tank podcast, and like to like now 10 years later be sitting here to recap a day in which I can victory lap Adrian Wojnarowski and Shams Charania. Like I am kind of enjoying this moment a little bit. And I do like truly think that, like, I think it's perfect that you and I, the dumbasses that we are, get to record this specific episode.
I thought you were going to say that you would have told me that a podcaster would be enough of a resume to get hired as Lakers head coach, because, you know, at that point I would have been like, hell yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready for my opportunity in 10 years. Let's go. This is the career plan I see for myself. You know, I do the Fagan film breakdowns, and then eventually, you know, I get hired to co-host the podcast with LeBron, a thing that did not really even, I mean, I guess podcasts existed, but they weren't like they are now. There aren't that many.
Yeah.
There weren't that many of them. And, you know, I was going to go and do that. And then I was going to head coach of the Lakers next. I was going to lose all my hair because of how stressed out I was. And, you know, I think I've mostly followed that roadmap.
Yeah. No, I honestly don't see how your life would be any different if you would have done all of those things.
Yeah, I want to congratulate you, though, because, I mean, the woke lamestream media tried to cancel you and tried to insist that your reporting was faulty. There were people saying, like, Irwin has no sources, and, you know, this is not reliable, and ha 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 to Pat McAfee, you know, when your tweet came up on screen and stuff like that. And, you know, I think it's crazy that you just, like, took Adrian Wojnarowski and Shams and you picked them up both by the collar, and you're like, you guys are going to settle your differences right here in this locker that I'm shoving you into.
Get comfortable, losers. You're going to figure this out. No, like they're
going to have us both killed. We've gone too far at this time. I think
I'm a little nervous about my trip to Vegas this year. Like between
I'm not going. I'm hiding. I'm sorry. I'm not going.
Between Rob and the Rambi and Darvin. Could you imagine like me and Darvin meeting each other and he realizes who I am?
What do you mean? Darvin's getting 2 salaries in part because of you. Hey, he's going to give you a hug.
Darvin. But no, and then you
go
have
back to the job that he actually loved, and he gets the Lakers coaching salary.
you have the Woj Mafia, and Shams is going to kick me in the shin because that's all he can reach. No, like I just. So here's the deal. We were talking before the show, and I wasn't going to do the victory lap thing. People have been telling me on Twitter all day to do the victory lap thing, and I wasn't going to do it because I find victory lapping over information that I have had, and have been confident in, kind of weird. I think it's very kind of self-aggrandizing. What is it? Self-aggrandizing?
Self-aggrandizing.
Yeah. I just didn't love the thought of it. But then Harrison made a good point, and I'm going to explain it to you because, like I've said, I want to be transparent.
I think this is the most vain thing in the world that you're about to do. I would never encourage this.
But like I think Harrison made a good point when we weren't recording.
New sentence in the history of this podcast.
In that, like, I think this is kind of a cool moment for like listeners and viewers, the people who have been here with us from day one or from whenever it was that you started watching or, subscribing to the show. This is one of those cool moments where we all get to enjoy this W together, right? Like success is best enjoyed with company. And I think on a day like today where, look, the fact that Woj felt like he had to go out of his way and say that the contract was offered only this morning, like he's never done that before. Like he knows what's going on there. It was on ESPN airwaves. My tweet was on his own airwaves. Of course he knew like he was going to do this.
You think he was madder about that or Shams being on there? Probably still Shams, but like you had to think about it for a second. You know,
like, who the fuck is Anthony? What's he doing there? But like, so like I'll get into the timeline, right, and I'll tell my jokes and all that stuff. But like, I do think though that because again, all day today I've been told, I've gotten tweet and texts and message and stuff like that. Take your victory lap, enjoy this moment, and enjoy it with everybody. Give people what they want. And I've sent a couple subtweets here and there.
And Anthony's head have been telling him all day. They're like, Anthony, you deserve this. Just go take your victory lap. Go. Yeah. It's the first lap you've taken in years, but you go and do it.
Well, it's going to be a short. Well, that's the thing. It's going to be a very short victory lap because, as you guys can tell, I don't run many of those. Like this is not a thing that I normally do. So, but I will say though, I do want to thank everybody who has really stuck with us here. And your reward is that you, the listener who has paid attention to this show and followed the reporting that I have done on this show and on my timeline and all of those things, you are actually better informed than the typical, viewer, listener of those guys' shows because they have been so focused on sniping at each other for this story for some reason that I think that they have legitimately let their audiences down. And I think in this case right now, where you guys are tuning into this show, and if you guys have followed along while I have tried to explain my way through, again, it's a very disorganized timeline because the people who are doing this don't seem particularly organized. But those of you who have been sticking with us here and you get to enjoy this moment with us, like you guys should be taking the victory lap too. You guys should dunk on other people on there saying like, no, we roll with the lounge. We ride with the lounge. I'm a proud lounger.
We need there's Swifties or Swiffers and there's Arianators and like Libbies and there's like these the cult name fan bases or whatever. And I think we need a name for your cult that you're starting here on this lounge. Again, these reports are only made possible through your financial contribution. So donate now. There's a box right on the YouTube thing. And I mean I think winners is like a strong Antonon.
Antonon. Q Antonymous.
Yeah.
Q Anthony Anonymous.
Yeah, my hairy sons, it's like it's
we should. I'll make a t-shirt for those of you, the Q Anthony nuns.
You got to get a poll started on what we're supposed to call your stand base. It's not a fan base, it's stand base now.
Stand base.
And and so we got to figure out, is it Winners, Antonon?
Mm-hmm. But that in and of itself is going to end the victory lap. I'm already out of breath. I already feel awkward. I'm sweat exercising. So I am going to move on though and offer up the timeline as I have it. Again, as I tell all of you, all of our information here is incomplete because we are not active participants in this story. We don't do this. Loungers, I think Alexis is going to be where we wind up on this. I think Loungers is the right.
I think winners, it's because they win, they just win with the information that they get.
Somebody did tweet like, this is why you aren't called Anthony or lose. Like, yeah, it's appreciate
exactly.
That.
I mean, there's a reason they don't call him Poor Paul. It's Rich Paul because
he's very rich Paul.
He's very. He should change his name. Very Rich Paul.
Extremely. He's now wealthy Paul. So, but no, I'm going to offer up Harrison and if you find any kind of holes in this timeline, let me know. Call me out. But the timeline as I have been given it today is and this is as of this is done. So you normally while the story is developing, you get very, very partial information because people don't want to give away too much. And then once a decision is made, people are more willing to go out there and speak more fully on how things played out. So this right now is the Irwiners actually is a good one. Irwine, like the Irvine Mafia is a good one, with or without the H. But so as I understand the story and as I understand the timeline, the Lakers fired Darvin Ham and singled out JJ Redick from the get-go as somebody that they could really see. They liked his potential. They liked the story aspect of this, and this is something that I want to talk about here a little bit later. The Lakers' reliance on story. But essentially at the onset of this search, the Lakers, in terms of realistic options, really liked JJ Redick. Now, this is where things get a little tricky, right? Because some people I've spoken to have said that Dan Hurley was kind of a, cloud, like a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow type candidate that, like, maybe, just maybe, but they didn't think that they had a great chance at him from the onset of this thing. So they begin
when seeing their final offer, I can sort of understand why maybe people feel that
way. But so, all right. So the process starts, and they head into it hoping to be wowed by JJ Redick. That's an important detail. Take a note on that one. Put a pin in that one. That the Lakers headed into this thing hoping to be impressed by JJ Redick. And look, I spoke to a Western Conference executive who said, like, that's a little weird. Like that doesn't indicate great process when you're going into it hoping to be wowed. That doesn't exactly speak to an open mind on the matter. And I think James Borrego would probably agree that the Lakers didn't have the most open mind to this, seeing as they looked for every reason and every opportunity not to hire him while continuing to mention his name. So
it was sort of like the Byron Scott thing where they're like, we have to get like 7 meetings with you to decide to hire you as head coach. But then there was like no other option. There wasn't a JJ Redick at that time that they could then hire. Borrego was like the Byron Scott of that process, but there was someone that they actually wanted more. But they're like, no, James, come on in for another interview. We gotta keep this coaching search going. Let's just don't take that Cavs offer yet. Let's just keep in touch.
So we So that, man, what a pull. The Byron Scott 7 interview process.
I will never forget that summer.
We were doing that. We were doing this.
No, it was I think one of my first summer. It was like my first or second summer actually, like, writing about the team. So I definitely have strong memories of the Byron Scott, like, 7 lunch meetings.
Remember the whole time Darius was so pissed.
They interviewed Byron again today.
The whole time Darius like, no, please, no, not Byron. I remember that offseason.
They got so many free lunches out of that. Like that was ultimate job interview move. It's like, now let's get lunch again.
Yeah. So like I remember Darius, Darius at that time was a lot spicier, and he would just come out and just say, no, do not do this. I'm not a fan of this. Please don't do this. And I remember that off season, basically everything Darius was begging for them not to do, they went out and did. Like, it was actually something that, like, first endeared me to Darius. I was like, I got to write with that guy. I got to work with that guy, because this guy, like, seems to hate these people.
Yeah, if I remember, he was very upset about the Carlos Boozer signing as well.
Yeah,
or claiming off waivers. I don't remember. They either signed him or they claimed him off waivers. I don't remember.
Yeah,
but.
So, all right. So anyway, back to Redick. So they go into this hoping to be wowed by him. He does. Shockingly, the podcaster wows the people in a sit down interview setting. Like, that is something that I truly was blown away by. And look, when I heard that the Lakers were going into that process hoping to be wowed, that's when I started writing my first piece for Lakers Daily, that I said that the Lakers were zeroing in on JJ Redick, or how it had zeroed in on JJ Redick was because if you're going into it hoping to be wowed in an interview setting by JJ Redick, then you are likely to be wowed by JJ Redick. He's a very charismatic guy. He's a good looking dude. He's a smart guy, all those things.
He's a successful podcaster for a reason. He is good at presenting. That's the whole thing. That's his job. That's been his
not
job.
Just successful, Harrison. One of the most successful podcasts,
and also
in short order,
has risen at sort of a rate that is much faster than guys that had his NBA career usually rise through the media ranks. You know, like, again, that's with all due, like, he was a good player and everything, but he wasn't an all-star. There weren't bidding wars for JJ Redick coming out of the gate. He was someone who sort of slowly built up an empire, and, you know, through word of mouth, through, you know, like networking, through, you know, just doing good podcasting. Like, he was someone that was able to sort of build a little mini empire that he's now giving up. Maybe.
Absolutely. Well, I don't think he's giving it up. There's no chance.
Well, yeah.
Also,
have we figured out if he maintains ownership of the feed, or if he's going to keep podcasting? What are your sources saying about that?
For $8 million, I think that he maintains. I think it would have cost like $18 million a year to actually buy the feed from him. But all right, so this is actually really cool. Off to the side, Dylan Bashoner actually gifted a Lakers Lounge membership to Omaris. That's really dope. That is really, really cool. I think it's like, you know, a couple bucks a month. And I want to get back to doing those Lakers Lounge happy hour episodes where I will be bringing members onto the stage again. That was really dope, Dylan. Thanks for that. But so I write that first thing about JJ and the Lakers zeroing in on him, and I thought, like, and this is one of those moments where I will cop to jumping the gun. I thought back months, you know, weeks ago, that the Lakers hiring JJ Redick was imminent. I tweeted it. I did a video on it. And I thought that was where this was heading. And like I said that night, when it didn't appear to be heading that way, and after the Dan Hurley situation, which we'll get to here in a second, I was told that night by a source who I now take a lot more seriously, you're probably going to want to pump the brakes a little bit on JJ. They aren't close right now. The two sides aren't particularly close right now. And, you know, I it's not to say that I fully, like, completely ignored that person and made them feel like an idiot, but I certainly didn't utilize that information in my analysis, in my reading of the situation. Dan Wojcicki actually appeared to, and so like the next day we get the Dan Hurley bit, and we dive into that whole ordeal, where Woj says nobody else has mattered in this process, only Dan Hurley has mattered in that process to this point, which again, I didn't think that made any sense. It just, and it did. And so while I was kind of like losing my mind on Twitter saying, this doesn't make any sense to me, please stop yelling at me. Please, like, like, hear me out. This is why I don't think this makes any sense. I was hearing from some very good sources, whether it's industry, league, or Lakers sources. No, actually, Woj is just having a go at Shams. And you. Well, I don't think I mattered at that point. I don't think I've mattered, honestly, at any of these points. The only time that I would say that I think I was on either of their radars was with the me calling it done on Monday, which again we will get to here in a second. So the Hurley thing goes down. And but right before the Hurley thing goes down, the Lakers were frustrated, I'm told, with JJ Redick not being able to do anything or accept even like a handshake deal before the finals were over. That was something that, like, Woj used the phrase that I have used in the past today on SportsCenter. The Lakers had cooled on JJ Redick as a result of his ardent stance. No, I have to focus on the finals first, and we can pick this back up after the finals are over. And so, you know, obviously, as Ethan, I thought very like I never would have connected the dots there. But right at that time, Dan Hurley was frustrated with the contract extension that UConn didn't put on the table for him.
No, Anthony, I'm going to stop you right there. Dan Hurley did not need leverage. Okay. He said it as much in his 19 podcast celebrating his Lakers interview and then re-signing with UConn. Okay, immediately afterwards. Those are just coincidental things.
Yeah.
That he got what he wanted from UConn right after that. I think again, like you're throwing up too many smoke screens right now.
So fair, honestly. That's totally fair. That it's I'm sure it was just a coincidence that he happened to have 17 interviews lined up the moment after he turned down the Lakers. All of them, by the way, with college people, or people linked to I don't know this guy John Fanta. I don't know. He seems like a nice guy and all that stuff. But I found it really funny that the person who first floated the $100 million number out there, that figure out there, just so happened to have an interview lined up with Dan Hurley, moments after Hurley had made his decision. But anyway, Hurley makes his decision, and I think an important note here for those of you who are care about these things moving forward is that the Lakers, I am told, were also in the dark about how it was going to play out that Monday morning. That they felt confident in the way that the meetings went, and they felt confident in the offer that they made him, but they hadn't heard and didn't know what they were going to find out whenever the news came out, or however Dan was going to leak that news. That gets to the intel aspect that Raj and I talked about last night. So we obviously Hurley turns them down, and I was told when he had turned them down that work needed to be done on both sides here, that the Lakers had cooled on JJ Redick for telling them to wait, that they don't feel like he was in a position, or he should have been in a position to feel like he could tell the Lakers to wait. And that Redick had also cooled on the Lakers because of his experience in interviewing him and some of the conversations that took place over that time frame. And again, the whole Hurley thing, it's not if you are basically told that there might be a handshake deal in place, and then all of a sudden you find out they make an actual offer to this other coach, it's going to have you feeling a certain way. And so
I'm excited for JJ to get asked about that, and I don't think that he will be condescending at all when he does get asked about it at his opening press conference.
No way.
I think just going to be super chill about it, and
which question will piss him off more?
Answer.
Which question will piss him off more? The that one about the Hurley situation and being plan B to Hurley, or not having Anthony Davis on any of his all defense teams?
I don't think he's going to get asked about the second one in the intro presser. I sort of doubt it. It would be very funny though.
It would be.
I gotta see if I can
bring a moment of levity.
Yeah, I got to see if I can put Edwin up to this. Maybe Anthony Davis from the crowd. He's like,
oh Anthony my Davis? God, Harrison, that is genius. Hi, yeah. First time, long time.
He's like, hey, Anthony Davis here from every video gamer's Twitch stream, seemingly.
Yeah.
I just wanted to know, why did you leave Anthony Davis off of both your all defense teams this year? And what does Anthony Davis have to do to improve to get your approval as one of the 10 best defenders in the NBA?
Honestly, you know what? The Lakers should put AD up to that.
That would have that would have been had me cooling on JJ once I saw the all defense votes come out.
Yeah, I remember you texted me them.
Yeah. Maybe he doesn't know ball. I don't know.
It's possible. It's if you
what they say about the media,
all of your all defense teams, it has to be.
You know what they say about the national media? They don't watch the games. That's something.
Yeah. Especially podcasting national media.
Yeah.
That is one thing they are known for. All right. So after Hurley, turns them down and cooler heads prevail, the Lakers and JJ Redick pick up their conversation again. And it was very quick. I will say that while both sides had kind of cooled on each other, it didn't take much at all for both sides to kind of see eye to eye and move forward. And I am told that upwards of a week ago, JJ Redick and the Lakers were moving forward and nearing an agreement, or working towards an agreement. And that interview that Woj reported about on Saturday, this last Saturday.
This is to be clear, that was the first formal interview, I believe.
Yes.
Was his phrasing. So it was the first one where everyone was wearing suits.
Yeah,
they told Kurt, they're like, no, Kurt, no sweats allowed. suits
No Tommy
only,
Bahama shirt
formal
either.
interview. It was like JJ and Rob came in like Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly and Step Brothers. They were both just in
straight tuxedos.
Yeah.
So the sides get together, they move forward, and they're ready to move towards an agreement. And that interview on Saturday, I am told, that was more kind of confirmation that they are all moving forward. And I think that is when actual contract stipulations really were first broached. And then they worked on that over the weekend. And whether that was figured out over the weekend or whatever, I am told that by the time we got to this week and after the finals were over, right after the finals were over, JJ Redick started operating as head coach of the Lakers. That's why on Tuesday, I said, okay, I've heard enough. JJ Redick is the coach of the Lakers. And that's why I phrased it that way. That's why I said it on the show. That's why I said breaking news and all that stuff, because that's how I knew the situation to be. And then fast forward even past that, in the last 48 hours or so, 36 hours or so of my life, it has been like all of the people I'm talking to, like I to those of you who are asking or who are saying somehow definitively, I jumped the gun. I was wondering it too. Like I don't consider myself a journalist or whatever. I think that's far too serious a term for me. But when somebody who is trying to do this gets information, reports that information, and that information winds up being incorrect or seeming incorrect, you reach back out to your sources and you ask what is going on. And the people that I was talking to about what the hell was going on were wondering with me. We don't know what's going on. This has been done. He's been here. We've all moved forward. We don't know what's going on. And so like, if you look at the timeline here, so I think I whether it was Monday or Tuesday was when I said, okay, this is done. And ever since then, Harrison, you had a theory on the currency of scoops. And I kind of laughed it off then, but like the more that I think about it, I think there might be something to it. So I'll let you explain that.
How are you keep teeing me up for, you're like, hey, you said this thing off the air that was really complimentary of me, and
you said that on the air. The only reason I'm bringing it back up is because it was on the air.
You're like, you said this nice thing about me. Can you explain to the listeners how great I am? But I was right. I mean, so while you were talking, I was listening, but I was also going back to find your exact phrasing about the exact scoop. And this is what you said. You said, hearing it's done, JJ Redick is the next coach of the Lakers, about to go live and talk about it. You did not say like the Lakers have formally decided on JJ Redick's contract or, whatever. No. They didn't all get in suits and then present it to him in like a briefcase. They opened the briefcase and it's like a contract in there, like really nice, like Lakers logo pen. But JJ, you're not allowed to take that home. Those aren't free. You got to, we keep that. That's our signing pen. The Lakers, so you never said that they made an offer, or that there was like a contract done or something like that. You just said that the decision had been made and that he was going to be the next head coach of the Lakers. And so I think that that's an important distinction. And, the point that I made to you off air is I think that, we live in a world where information is currency, and I don't think
it was off the air, but okay. If it was off the air, I'll explain it, because that puts you
it's
in
fine.
Kind of
I'm happy to make the point. Like, I think information is currency, and like we see the reason that we see these guys sort of go to war against each other through video clips on Twitter or whatever is because they want you to think that they are the ones that have all the information. They are the arbiters of truth. They are the one that had the real story the whole time. And no, the Lakers were never serious about Dan Hurley, or no, the Lakers, they hadn't interviewed JJ Redick in suits yet. That 90-minute, sit down at the combine was just, that was just a 90-minute chat, with your possible future head coach and whatever. And just this idea that like they have the entire story entirely right the entire way. No one else has any good information or whatever. And so I think that when you sort of come out with that, there is probably a pressure as this information is being traded from sources to journalists to, back and forth, intel trading, whatever, to like, well, wait a second. Now this isn't really my scoop. It's going to look like I just got it right after this random guy on Twitter that I've never heard of before today, got it. And so I think that sometimes in cases like that, like, it wouldn't surprise me if there was like hey, let's wait so that it doesn't look like sort of Anthony got this first. Because
Right.
that then, we have already traded intel to be named later to Woj that he gets to announce this 20 minutes before Shams gets to drop his article.
Right. And you always see, even despite all of the noise between the Lakers and Woj and Hurley and all of that stuff, and some of the concern that maybe the Lakers were used as leverage, the fact that Woj still, quote unquote, breaks it today, is noteworthy, right? Because that relationship that he has with Rob Pelinka is a very, very strong one. That is one that both parties really benefit from. And it did cross my mind. I'm not vain enough to actually think that this is definitively true, but it did cross my mind that, like, maybe, Woj would hold off on a couple of days after I mention it. Problem is, a couple of days arrives us at Juneteenth, and I'm told that the Lakers didn't want to announce that on Juneteenth, which honestly, perfectly fine. Like, I actually fully understand it. I think it's sound reasoning. It's information that, like, it's just information that gets out to people or whatever. When it gets out, doesn't matter. It can wait another day till today, right? Today is Thursday. And I think that is a fine thing. So that's how we arrive at Woj, quote unquote, breaking the story today, even though I have been told that the principal characters in this story have already been operating with JJ Redick as the head coach of the Lakers for now 3 days. And like, I don't know what's been fascinating.
Anthony, I just don't think that there's any way that these sides knew that this was done, a couple days ago, and we're sort of
Last
operating
night.
as such. I think that clearly every single media entity got an extensive list of assistants that JJ is already talking to, within 20-ish minutes of him getting the job. Like, I think that, the sort of, we all already have an idea. It's like the first day when you take any job, you already have every single thing that you're going to do already figured out,
Yep. Yeah. Every single time that's how it plays out. It's crazy that the Athletic had 1,000 words on this decision 5 minutes after Woj, quote unquote, broke it first. So anyway, the one note that I'll make about this entire experience is actually, like, really kind of goes back to the conversation I had with Ethan, with which I really do hope you guys check out, because I thought that was that is, to this day, I think, one of my favorite episodes that I've ever done.
It was very good, and it's just like, it's such a weird topic, and
it's
like,
so weird.
He explains it so well that hilarious episode.
But it's been so weird to be on this side of that coin, where, like, Woj literally decides what is the news, and he has droves and droves and droves of people who will scream at anybody else who tells a version of the story that isn't Woj's. Same goes for Shams. Like, they get to decide what the actual story is. And that is so weird to be on this side of it, where I have known what the story is that I had in front of me. I'd had this pretty well nailed, and I think I've had it pretty well nailed throughout this entire experience. So it was so weird to keep on getting yelled at for having what is considered, Harrison was considered, a wrong version of the story. That, like, I was just wrong. I'm a fraud. I'm a loser. I'm all these things. I'm a bitch. I'm a lover. Like, it was just so weird to experience.
They were calling you certified lots of things,
So, like, that's honestly, like, the only inside baseball kind of note that I have from this experience. Is it's so weird to be on the side of like, to have the right story, to know that I have the right story, and yet be told time and time and time and time again that I have the wrong version of the story, because it's actually Woj who decides what reality is. That's insane. That's such an insane existence.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, he also told me today that Josh Giddey has all-star potential. So I mean, I guess theoretically every NBA player does. Like, enough guys get hurt. Like,
Yeah. No, actually, you know what? Jamaican me crazy. That's actually fair. I think Jay Williams did actually break it first. It was
yeah, actually, that's a good point. Yeah. So Anthony had it second.
Yeah.
If you're tracking the information wars, although Jay Williams seemed to break it on accident. Like, I don't think that he knew that wasn't
Monica
news that was out yet.
McNutt's face, just like Jay. All right.
It's clear. Like obviously Jay Williams would have found that out before Woj. Like, it's just that's how these things work.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
All right. So he could have known that it was a done deal on Monday when Jay Williams did.
But it was just like I woke up on Monday and I was like, oh, that's kind of weird that JJ would call the finals games and then not be on First Take or any ESPN airwaves. That's a little odd, right?
Maybe that's how Jay Williams knew. Is JJ dropped out, but he's like, hey, can you cover for me at work? I got to go make an agreement with the Lakers. And Jay's like, I got you. I'll pick up the shift.
Do you think Jay Williams is going to start going by JJ Williams? Like he's going to add another J to his name. Maybe it'll give him more opportunities. But that was the first kind of red flag that I saw in terms of development there. And that's when I first reached out to people to be like, hey, this is a little odd. Like, this guy was just one of the voices of the finals. Normally ESPN would have him on their airwaves somewhere, whether it's First Take, Sports Center, anything, but I didn't see him anywhere. That was a little weird. And then Jay lets that slip. And that's when my tone with the people that I was talking to really kind of changed. Like, hey, he just said it. Like, he just said it. It's real, right? And finally I had enough people say like, okay, yes, he's already here. And that's when I said JJ is the next coach. No contract stipulations or anything. Shouts to Jovan, who was the first I saw with the number that JJ is actually signed to, which I thought was I was pretty close on the number. I think Raj and I talked about the number last night. I thought it would be in that $7 to $8 million ballpark. Turns out it's a 4-year, $32 million deal, $8 million a year. It makes perfect sense. And look, like this is the last thing too. Sorry. You study journalism, right, Harrison? Citing other reports isn't illegal, right? In fact, it's actually ethical. It's an ethical aspect of
school, I suppose.
Huh?
Depends on your journalism school, I suppose.
I guess that's true. But so here's where I would say that, you and I, with the way that we did things at Silver Screen, we've known stuff for a while. Like we've both done this for long enough that you hear enough stuff. And in my case, I just finally decided to, fully heel turn into it. Whether or not I'm going to stay doing this after this ordeal, that's another question altogether. But like for us, citing reports, aggregating reports, all of that stuff, that allowed Silver Screen's readers to be the most informed they could possibly be. You're giving them the most full version of the story that they could possibly have. That was always my top priority at Silver Screen, was keep the audience entertained and informed. And that's how I do this. I want to keep you guys who tune into this thing, this stupid little thing of mine every day, entertained and informed. And that means if Jovan gets to a bit of information before I do, I'll say, yeah, all right, Jovan gets the credit there for that. And like, for some reason, and you actually see this in other sports. In baseball, you see hat tips all the time. In football, you see hat tips all the time. And football information is even more valuable than basketball information. But for some reason, in basketball,
there is not a culture there of blood feud over scoop territory, the way that way that there has been in basketball. And that, because there's the phrase Woj bomb, like the primary information and thing that gets you that big salary is, that you had the information first, which has somehow turned into that you always had the only information and everyone else was wrong.
Yeah. But I don't think that's healthy for NBA reader viewership or listenership in podcast form, right? Like, I think in this case, Woj and Shams, by focusing so hard on proving the other person's story is absolutely impossible, have actually hurt their audiences. And I think that's really kind of too bad.
Hurt is a strong term. I don't
like impacted their audience's understanding of the story. That's
okay. Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, unless even if their audiences were throwing down on some, like sports books on next head coaching odds, like but for most of the story, they probably would have been right to get.
Well, this is what's fun. Like heading into that morning that Dan Hurley was making his decision, JJ Redick was 3-1 to be the Lakers' next head coach. And I had people asking me, what do you think about these odds? And I said, that seems rich. Like that seems that I would jump on that. I even looked into jumping on that. Because
I'm ranting about journalism ethics, but then I also almost gambled on this story I was actively covering. I guess at least you're honest about it. Credit to you.
Well, I'm always going to be
most ethical man.
I didn't bet on
it. Anthony Irwin, most ethical man in journalism.
I didn't bet on it because I couldn't, because my bookie wasn't carrying it. but those odds, like, I did have people asking, like, what do you think about these odds? And I was like, I think that like, I even tweeted it out. I think like Redick at 3-1 to be the Lakers' next head coach is an incredible bet. I would have totally taken that bet. And to those of you who did, congratulations on all of that Avery Donut money. But let's move on, though. Enough like media journalism talk. Let's talk about JJ Redick's staff really quickly here before we get out of here. And I've seen people asking about it. I've seen the names out there, like you said, Harrison, just happen to be out there and have been out there now for a little while with JJ Redick.
I'm sure he thought of all those names today after he got the formal offer. Okay, there's just no way. Like,
yeah. So the names that have been mentioned are James Borrego, Sam Cassell, Jared Dudley, Rajon Rondo, and like Terry Stotts / Scott Brooks. I would again add Miles Simon to that list. I do think like I've actually heard that the two sides have actually spoken about a possibility here.
I mean, he's a guy that, like, at the level of the bench that he's at, where like he's not going to get reported in that initial wave because they're talking about the people that are like lead assistant candidates, 100% locked in. They would be front of the bench, where like someone like him would probably just be on the staff, maybe a front of bench coach, but like it's not like a certainty where they're going to be in that initial wave of, like sort of scooped about names.
Yeah. So in terms of like the names who are out there, the most realistic one that I would say is, widely reported right now, I think, is Scott Brooks. The Lakers have been interested in him in the past.
Yeah, they've almost hired him, I think, under two different coaches, right? If I remember correctly, he was definitely a candidate for Frank and Darvin, I think.
Yeah. So if I had to, put a name down there, like first guy that they will, and JJ Redick's like lead assistant, I'm like praying. I would love it if Stan Van Gundy would take it, but he hasn't been mentioned at all. And I really think he's kind of focused on his own personal life. Like I said, whenever it was yesterday's show or whenever we had it, Stan's wife actually passed away via suicide. And that would be so traumatic that I don't know, like, I don't know if I'd ever be able to work again. Like it's like I don't know how I would operate without Jen, especially after going through this ordeal. So I would probably say Scott Brooks is kind of the most realistic. And the other names that have been mentioned, right? James Borrego, he's going to take one of the Detroit or Cleveland jobs like that. All of the
it does seem like it lined up very well. All of these turns of events did line up very well for James Borrego and his agent, where like with the Cavs thing, he always had the threat of the Lakers job of like, hey, I'm still in the running for that. You can't just lowball me, whatever. And then now all of a sudden out of nowhere, the Detroit job comes open right as the LA musical chair gets filled with JJ Redick officially. And shout out James Borrego's agent. He's also going to be Rich Paul,
So James Borrego, I'm told, I guess it's still technically between Borrego and Atkinson, but I think whoever doesn't get that job will wind up getting the other one. Although I don't know, like I already saw that Detroit is bringing in JB Bickerstaff for an interview when they're talking to Dallas's lead assistant, Sean Sweeney. Yeah, I guess he's in the running there. So is Mike Nori. And so we'll kind of see how that plays out. But in terms of Borrego, I would be pretty surprised if he doesn't walk away from this offseason with a head coaching gig. So that probably takes him off of the board. Especially if Sean Sweeney gets the gig in Detroit and Jared Dudley gets the opportunity to be, move up the seats there and be as high as I think it would be the lead assistant if Sweeney leaves. I don't think Dudley is leaving, and Mark Stein wrote this for his Substack.
I just don't think that the Lakers are going to outbid the Mavs for Dudley with that new Mavs ownership group. I just don't see that happening. It seems unrealistic.
And to that point, Stein said that Dudley is somebody they really, really, really want to keep in house, and like you said, they have deeper pockets than the Buss family does. So I don't know if Dudley is necessarily a possibility. And then who else is out there? Sam Cassell. Sam Cassell, I've been told, is not coming because he is moving up the bench to be Joe Mazzulla's number 2
in Boston, right? So yeah, he's got a pretty
coming
good
off of the championship.
There.
I don't think he will be leaving that. And I don't think Boston will be letting him leave that opportunity. You don't want to lose that much of your bench coming off of a championship. So that leaves like Rajon Rondo. And I saw somebody ask earlier about Rondo's domestic violence stuff. That did stop the Lakers from hiring Jason Kidd to be their head coach, but it did not stop them from hiring him to be their assistant coach. So I think Rondo is probably a possibility here. You know that LeBron would be really interested in him, and I think Anthony Davis would be really interested in him. I think Rondo probably happens, but what were you going to say?
I was just going to add that just for full context on the Rondo thing, for anyone that's not aware, I did look into this today a little bit during some edits, and he was the mother of his children was granted an emergency protective order against him after he allegedly brandished a gun at them, which several months later that protective order was mutually agreed to be dropped, and the two sides came to an agreement. So that is sort of like this is not a situation where there's like an ongoing legal case against Rondo, to my knowledge, like there was back at that time when he was getting interviewed. That was an ongoing story. Now that is a story that is no longer ongoing and has reached a conclusion. So whatever you think of the alleged conduct, all of that stuff, like I just wanted to point out that, like, from a legal perspective, that is now a closed case, and or not a case. It wasn't a case anyway. It was the protective order has been dropped, and they came to an agreement.
Yeah, and he does have another one, the gun possession and drug charges that I think took place in Indiana is I believe where that took place. And that one, I believe, is still an open case, one that is still going on, still ongoing to see what the outcome of that is. But I think that is considered in a different class than the type of crime that you talked about. So we've seen the Lakers make kind of principled stances like they did with Jason Kidd, although only to a certain extent, right? They made him the highest paid assistant coach that year after Harris. Remember, we wrote about that at Silver Screen when I was still there.
I think you wrote that it would be abhorrent if they hired him and detailed his lengthy list of issues in his past. And I believe they hired him about 30 minutes after you dropped that story.
Well, they were thinking about making him the head coach. I said it would have been wrong to make him I wasn't for hiring him at all. They wound up making him the highest paid assistant coach in the sport when right after I wrote that. But that's fair. So we'll see what stances are made there with Rondo. But I do think he is somebody who enough kind of principal characters would be rooting for the Lakers to bring in, and that is certainly going to help them. And then from there, it just depends on how things go with that initial wave and which roles get filled and all of that stuff. This is speculation on my part, but I would imagine that LeBron will reach out to Phil Handy and ask about his interest in going back to the Lakers. Especially if the Lakers draft Bronny. I would imagine that LeBron would want Phil Handy there to help develop Bronny. That is, again, like, it's just this is kind of, obviously, once again, kind of an evolving and developing situation. But those are the names that you hear the most about, with a couple of, with at least the one addition there. And we'll see how that. I would imagine we're going to hear about that stuff relatively quickly, to be honest, because some of
You
those
would
guys have
think
to make
because
decisions. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, a lot of them are going to have to make decisions on sort of where their musical chairs are landing over the next,
Yeah.
several weeks to come. And then there's also just the practical matter of, it's great. You can have the G League staff run draft workouts, stuff like that. Like, to be honest, I think that's been like an overstated concern that people have had, that there hasn't been a coach for the draft process. Like, I don't think, like, how many times have you heard of a coach getting involved in the draft process and it turned out to be a good thing? Like, drafting is not the same as coaching.
Yeah.
It's like they're different goals. You're trying, like, drafting is, or successful drafting is usually not like, what guy does my coach think is like the best player today, right now, necessarily. Those two goals, sometimes they align, but they don't always. And so I think that's been overstated. But just as a practical matter, going into summer league, going into sort of the off season, when you're going to want to have guys around, sort of developing, being able to use the gym, stuff like that. Like, head coaches, they can only be involved in so much of that as a result of the Players Association thing. And so you need assistance to not just to coach the summer league team and to, sort of get involved in those, but also, like, just to be around as somebody that can sort of work out with the players, during the off season, and sort of as somebody that I mean, again, a lot of these guys have their personal trainers and stuff like that they also work with. So it's not the end of the world, but it would be very, very weird if the Lakers didn't have an assistant coaching staff filled out relatively soon, just because of the different things that they're going to need those types of guys to do.
Yeah. And like, look, there's a lot less hullabaloo surrounding hiring an assistant coach. Like, it's just, there's a lot, like, part of the issue and part of why you've seen this kind of communication breakdown when Darvin Ham was fired, and then now when JJ Redick was hired, is you have more opinions on the matter within the Lakers organization, is how I'll phrase it. And I don't think Linda Rambis is going to have an opinion on, which assistant coach to bring in to help with the offense and the system, and which defensive coordinator to hire. I don't think that's something that they would get involved with in the same way that I'm told that they have been involved with, hiring Jason Kidd and firing Darvin Ham. The last thing I wanted to talk about, Harrison, and this is something I'm truly, truly excited about, is we can finally move the hell on. Like, I hate talking about myself and my role in this story and all of that. Like, I am not comfortable doing that. And also, the offseason is so effing fun once the head coach is in place, and you can start doing draft stuff, and you can start sinking your teeth into free agency and trade possibilities and all that stuff. I thought it was super interesting today. Aaron and I were talking on the show just right before JJ Redick was quote unquote leaked or whatever. That I thought
the
that
official,
the trade market,
unofficial announcement.
Yeah, right. When Woj broke the story, like, the thing that Aaron and I happened to be talking about right then was how I thought the trade market would be kind of depressed this time around, because bluffs were called at the deadline, and those crazy prices that teams were asking for weren't met. And then on top of that, there are going to be more players available as teams try to cut costs. And then we come to find out that Alex Caruso gets traded for Josh Giddey and nothing else, which is an insane trade. I don't understand what Chicago is doing. I think it needs to be investigated. And
they're trying to create
possibly legally
a team with the worst spacing and vibes imaginable. Just like a combination of just like everything awful you could put together,
Like DeMar DeRozan was
just a bad basketball
stage.
team that is also unlikable. It's
DeMar was just on stage dancing on Drake's grave as Kendrick Lamar called him a pedophile, and then Josh Giddey's his teammate.
For legal reasons, unrelated events that Anthony's just talking about. Okay.
I'm sorry, I can't not laugh at that.
Anthony just
thing.
stated two things that happened in sequential order. Those are not necessarily related or implying anything. I'm just lawyer.
Why would I imply anything? Yeah. Just allegations that have no. Anyway, but no, we will. But no, that's the thing that I'm excited about. That we now get to move on. We can now get back to laughing at the hilarity that the offseason can be. And we can all go on about the rest of our days. And, we're recording this on a Thursday evening. I might do a happy hour episode tomorrow, depending on what new information that we get or whatever. But no, as we get ready to sign off here, I do want to again thank those of you who have really stuck with us through this whole ordeal. And it has been an ordeal. I have blocked something like 500 people on Twitter because I'm just not interested in conversing with those kinds of people anymore. And to those of you who remain, congratulations on making the cut. I think I'm probably gonna at some point I'll probably mass unblock and just like go back or whatever. But I do want to thank everybody. We do have, however,
you're a certified lounger boy. That's what we should call your fans. It's like a nod to Raj. He'll love that. He needs a win. Come on, Raj needs a win.
Raj. I can throw out some initial reporting here too, but Raj has some news to break here pretty soon that has to do with the
new co-host to Mind the Game. I'm excited.
We do, however, have 9 super chats, so let's see what trouble we get ourselves into via these super.
Get those speakers ready. Oh wait, he already played it. Sorry,
sorry, everybody.
I tried, guys.
Right.
My bad.
Is it really that bad? Like I don't.
Oh no, I mean for me, it doesn't bother me in my headphones, but I don't know what other audio settings people have on. Or
do you have people listening to this like in full blast? Like
they just want to hear every pop of your mic.
Justin Tyndall writes, this incompetent ownership and front office gives me no hope. Doing a podcast gets you to be the Lakers head coach. This clown show has not learned anything from all these head coach searches. So embarrassing. What I will say on that is that like Redick's podcasting,
because I'd love to make $8 million a year to coach the Lakers. I think Justin's on something, and I think Anthony and I have great resumes. But the thing, I'm sorry, before you go, the thing that I will say is, even as much as it is hilarious to call JJ a podcaster and like do the headline of like Lakers hired a podcaster or whatever, like objectively a funny thing to say and like a good joke, but like he played in the NBA for over a decade. He's not just a podcaster. It's like this was not like if the Lakers would have hired Anthony, this would deserve this kind of like actual like jokes and this is ridiculous and whatever. Like, they hired Aaron, like someone with some experience in basketball, but like not a pro, he's been around teams or whatever like that. Then you could say Lakers hired a podcaster, but
yeah, I would say like the lack of experience is still concerning. But I agree with you that but it is minimizing him to just calling him.
It's a little dismissive, just a little bit.
But I think the point that Justin is making
like that at his press conference, because I'd love to see how he responds.
Rob Palinka actually says, like, all right, we are very excited to announce our head podcast coach, JJ Redick. No, but I think Justin does make one fair point here. And I think it's a really important one for us to take forward is that, like, given how chaotic this head coaching search was again, that indicates to me that they haven't learned anything because the Ty Lue one was chaotic. Darvin was somewhat, less chaotic, I guess.
And then they would have been more chaotic if they would have had a chance to get in on Doc Rivers at the time, I think. Yeah. But I believe he had not been fired yet.
Yeah, I think yes, maybe.
No, I don't remember the 100% timeline on that. Yeah. But there was like something that sort of kept them from, maybe they just didn't want to pay enough to get him to like not sort of stay taking a Sixers check.
Yeah. All right. The next question here comes from Marley Villasenor. I've never seen Woj mention the time of day that a contract was offered in the same tweet of a head coach announcement. Very weird wording on that one. Yeah, totally coincidental.
It is interesting.
You know what? I'm going to add that to my resume. Once subtweeted by Woj. I just subreported by Shams, subtweeted by Woj. Wanderer, Nirvana, Anthony Irwin, #1 Lakers reporter. No, there is actually somebody who's
that's right. Suck it, Mike Trudell. Sorry.
Like Mike is actually, and I love True. Like he's one of my favorite people, my fellow Vikings
he's
fan.
great, but I'm sorry. I think you've defeated him in trial by combat.
I
Get
get
to
his
take
account.
the Lakers reporter at.
I get to. Could you imagine what a shock to the system that would be to like the number of people on there who follow True but don't follow me the first time I send a tweet?
It would cause like a mass psychosis, I think.
What is Mike saying? All right. Frankie Galden writes, why have other Laker pods ignored your reporting?
Thanks, Frankie. That's a great question. I'll take this one. It's because they're haters and losers, and they don't want you to understand real information.
Also, like Harrison, you and I came up, we did important use of also. But like we we remember back when Jake Fisher was kind of coming up, and like we also were skeptical of somebody else dipping their toe into that arena. And it took a little while. Jake had to hit a number of stories and a number of big stories for you to believe that he had good information. And then once he did, we started doing more of it. And we'll see. Like the thing that makes this kind of tricky.
The thing that I've always said as like someone who used to blog a lot more and still does occasionally is like, I'm good. So like, as long as I've seen someone have a track record of getting things right in the past, like I'm good.
Yeah.
Or they're backed by some like major news organization where that they have like multiple rounds of edits before they can say something, or, whatever it is. Like that is when, you sort of reach the bar for credibility. And like, I think for a lot of people, they have not seen sort of Anthony break multiple stories. And so like, that is them just trying to keep their audience as best informed as it. Like they can't just take any tweet they see off the timeline and just be like, hey, this guy said this thing, so I think this is true.
And also, like, to kind of get back to some of what we were talking about earlier, I write for Lakers Daily. It's a Lakers blog. It's a competitor with Silver Screen and Roll. It's a competitor with Lakers Nation. It's a competitor with some of these other blogs and stuff like that. And there can sometimes be policies that we aren't going to pull from a fellow blogger, even if they might be informed. We'll just wait for, because like their audience, that like their readership or whatever. Now had they quoted my tweet from Monday or whenever I gave it, the audience would have been informed earlier. But at the end of the day, their audience doesn't really lose anything by them basically maintaining a strictly Woj or Shams type of stance. And their competition doesn't get plugged. So that winds up being part of it there as well. But that's just kind of how the industry works. The next question here comes from I think it's either German or German. We can be called the Laker Loungers. Loungers is fine. I'm kind of feeling her whiners. Like I just I whine a lot. I know I whine a lot. I know you guys have to listen to me whine a lot.
I think Loungers is probably going to be the one that sticks.
I think it is too.
Yeah.
SSB Launch just sent me $5. Appreciate that, man. I really, really do. Oh no, there was an accident, I think. So should JJ coach Summer League? Ooh, that's a good question. I think he should. Kerr did in 2014. If he did, would the rating be better than Wemby last year? The media circus would be great.
It's going to be so funny when people like try to analyze his like timeout usage in the first Summer League game.
No, the first time
Lakers ran horns out of the first time out, guys. I think, this is going to be the basis of their offense.
No, here's the moment that'll really get hyper analyzed. The first time LeBron goes and sits courtside at a Lakers Summer League game that Bronny is playing in, and JJ pulls Bronny, and LeBron reacts to Bronny getting pulled. That'll be the moment I'm looking forward to.
It's an incredible content time we live in. But I agree with you. I think it would be, the objectively probably the smartest thing that he could do as someone who just, again, with all due respect to his resume, as someone who played in the NBA for a long time, he does not have he does not have any coaching experience, despite, obviously he was offered the Hornets job. Like he got interviewed for the Raptors. I saw someone say he was in the running for like a Celtics gig. Like he's been around coaching, but he has not actually done it outside of, like his children's, youth league games. And so just having those game reps to sort of get used to coaching an NBA team, I think would make a lot of sense.
John McCallion writes, same people who liked the JJ hire liked the Ham hire. Look, the Ham hire, like there were reasons to like it.
The Ham hire looked good on paper. It just was
and
bad.
Look,
it ended up not working out.
By the way, if you don't like the JJ hire, if you're down on the JJ hire, I totally understand. It's actively and objectively insane that the Lakers would hire somebody with zero NBA coaching experience to coach a team that has title aspirations next year. That is bananas. That is actually insane. And so to the point, to the people who are pointing that out, like I know Tim Cranges is very anti JJ and anti this hire. I honestly get it. In terms of like what you're looking for this specific team, I do think that there are some boxes that are being left unchecked here. So like I don't know. I honestly, like, aside from like the offensive ones, I guess, but I don't even know what kind of an offensive take you could have on JJ Redick, the head coach. I like across the entire spectrum of takes on JJ, I don't find myself outright disagreeing with any of them. I don't like. This could go any number of ways.
It is an empty box. Like it's a mystery box. It's, he could be great. He could be the next Pat Riley, or he could be horrendous at this. We have no idea. We know so little about what goes into head coaching. I have given up on trying to guess who is going to be a good first-time head coach or not after the Darvin thing, because I could not have been more wrong on all of that. And so, I'm sort of opting out of giving like first-time head coach predictions and who I think is going to be good, because we don't know anything, or we know very little about what actually goes into it and what works for success. And the other thing is there's not a template for it. We've seen wildly different styles of head coaches have different types of success. Like Steve Kerr and Joe Mazzulla are two totally different ends of the spectrum in terms of like the way that they coach a basketball team and the way that they sort of comport themselves and whatever, but both have been wildly successful coaches with different rosters and whatever. And so I think, we just don't know. And anyone who's the only people that have a chance to be wrong are the ones that are like absolutely certain one way or the other how JJ is going to work out. And I understand that's boring podcasting and everybody wants a take on I think there's a chance he's great, but again, there's a chance that we look back at this and we're like, the Lakers hired a guy with no head coaching experience who just did a podcast with LeBron. There's a chance we look back on that like the Byron Scott interview process. Like we just don't know.
Absolutely. All right. I think that is going to do it here for this episode of the Lakers Lounge podcast. Again, thank you to everybody who has reached out and all of the tweets and DMs and stuff like that. I've greatly appreciated. I've appreciated you guys all tuning in to this episode here. And all of the episodes this week. This has been a record-setting week here on the Lakers Lounge. So appreciate that. Please do hit that subscribe button if you guys are watching live on YouTube. If you guys are watching live on Twitter, head on over to youtube.com/@LakersLounge. If you guys are listening in the morning, you can listen to the show anywhere that you get your podcasts, preferably on Odyssey. And then tell your friends about that one show that had that nut job who somehow stumbled onto the story. And tell your friends that it's like an indie band. You can be there on.
You can get in there on the ground floor. You can be part of Q and Anthony and get the best source intel drops right when they happen, or you can wait for Woj and Shams a couple days later.
Oh, I missed another one. This one just dropped. Thoughts on losing out on Caruso to OKC? It makes them stronger as well. Yeah, that first and foremost.
I don't think the Lakers were going to get Caruso, but now I think it's like, wait, why couldn't they? Why? But again, it's like you can't negotiate logically with a front office that would rather have Josh Giddey than like the multiple first round picks the Warriors were offering at the deadline while they're in the Bulls roster situation. Like, it's like, yes, it sucks. I understand why Lakers fans would like him and would want him back on the team and whatever. But again, like, this is one that it's hard for me to criticize the front office for, because it's like, you're not negotiating with a logical actor. It's like if you walked into a store and you're like, hey, like, how much do I pay you for this? Iced coffee, and they're like, I would like 3 peanut shells, and you're like, wait, what? Like, I don't why do I
I don't carry peanut shells.
I don't, that's not a currency I carry on me,
Yeah, like to anybody who has tried to negotiate bedtime with a toddler, like it is just like that's essentially what negotiating with Arturas Karnisovas is. Like you're trying to do things with a toddler because he's running that Chicago Bulls team like a toddler. Like he's doing, like I honestly think Avery could maybe be better at his job than Karnisovas has been to this point in his tenure there. But
like, how much for this iced coffee? Well, I will either take your severed hand or a Funko Pop. And it's like, wait, I'm not going to give you either of those. That what?
Yeah. Well, no, and then right after you go through that, the person
in this situation.
Yeah, but like right after you go through that and you hear that request from the coffee barista, and like the person after you gets paid to drink the coffee.
Yeah, like I'll give you $10 to drink this brew. It's like, wait, what? What is happening?
Why didn't I get that deal? Like, I could have had that one. But no, I will say, and like I said it with Aaron on the show earlier today, I do think that the trade market is kind of suppressed right now, and I do think that improves the chances.
So.
Yeah, are able
price for Caruso.
Yeah, like like for any team that's like asking for anything, just like after the Gobert trade, right? Like any team that was trading away a player was like, I need 13 first-round picks if Rudy Gobert is going to go for that price. Now any team that starts a negotiation is like, look, man, like they got Caruso for Pito Turkoglu. Like we need to be able to get this guy for absolutely anything. We lost theirs.
What do you? I don't know how to respond when you do stuff like that. Like, I just say again, for legal reasons, Anthony said that. I did not. Okay.
No, it's just the coincidental nickname. There was a slip of the tongue.
Anthony thinks he has as bulletproof of like a communications legal team as Kendrick Lamar. It's like.
All right, that is going to do it on that note. For this episode of the Lakers Lounge podcast. Have a great rest of your day. Make somebody else's, and I will talk to you probably tomorrow sometime. We'll see.